All right, SuperCoaches, strap in. Welcome to the SuperCoach AFL Podcast, your in and out guide to the greatest game on earth. That's right, AFL SuperCoach. I tell you what, footy's back. That's the best part about this. Not only is footy back, Al and Stats Guy, but we're going to Gather Round. How good is this week?
Good.
I love Gather Round. That's right, round 3's in the bag. We've got round 4. Gather Round to preview on this show today. And I'm your host, Jaymz Clements. Joining me, as always, are 3 of the greatest minds in SuperCoach history. Well, maybe one of them. It's Al. What's going on, Al Paton?
Yeah, Tigers had a win. In the top 1,000 in SuperCoach ranks, so feeling good.
Couldn't be me. Could not be me. And over there from the AFL Today show, it's the Stats Guy, a.k.a. Liam McCallion. What's going on, Liam?
Yeah, I don't have as big a head of Al. I wish I was in that top 1% at the moment, but nowhere near that. But yeah, been a good week for SuperCoach and back to best 22 now, which I like. I like my score will look a bit better no matter what's going on. So happy with that.
I'm also worried about you throwing stones about the size of people's heads.
No. I mean, he's going really well. He's going to get in.
Stats Guy's got a giant box of a head, I'll tell you that much. He's got to fit that big brain of his in there. We're also going to bring on the Phantom later to talk out some more Bubble Boys and a bunch of other stuff. But of course, before we get into it, remember to sign up to SuperCoach Plus. What are you doing if you haven't done that? God, it saved me this week, I'll tell you. And jump on tips.com.au for all your AFL tipping and all the insights you'll need. Codesports.com.au. And you can follow these two genii. Does that work? Genii? Yeah. Geniuses? That also works.
I'll take it.
At what is it? Al_Superfooty and Liam _McCallion. Nice one. And
on X.
On X, that's right.
Yeah, same thing.
Instagram to see Stats got his giant head.
Right, it's going on there.
Let's talk round 3 wrap. The heroes and the villains, but our score wrap first. I'll tell you what, I had a shocker. 1792 because last second decision of going from Gawn to Petrarca as my captain completely backfired. So not great. Al, how'd you go?
2012, getting over the 2,000 again in a buy round, best 18. So yeah, really happy with that. And yeah, I was a bit shocked actually when I jumped on the site last night when lockout ended and now ranked 978 for the season. So I think, these best 18 rounds, it's really been a case of having those guys who go really big, and that's really helped me out. So we'll see what happens with, as you say, best 22 this week. I might get fanned out a little bit with some of those bottom end guys that I've been able to get rid of. I'll have to carry them this week, so we'll see how we go.
There is nothing better than like a low score rolling off your tally.
I know.
It's so good. A couple of 20s. I think there was Darcy Wilson had a 25 and things like that. Yeah.
All right, Stats Guy, I think you split the middle, didn't you?
Oh, sort of. Not great either. 1858. I just had a lot of. I had Bont as captain. Bevo didn't do us any favors, chucking him at full forward. Still did really well to get 110 though, so that wasn't too bad. But then a lot of my expensive players had a ceiling of 100. So other than Gawn going massive, I had a lot of guys getting 90s and 98 and things like that usually get 120, 130. So 1858, not great, but I'm still happy with my team. Yeah.
Nice one. All right, Al, who is your hero and villain for this week?
Well, I think we have to give the hero to Maxi Gawn, 177 points, the top scorer of the round. He's just a behemoth in SuperCoach, has been for years. He's starting to get it on a little bit in age, but it doesn't seem to bother him and just does absolutely everything. Like scores all his points in the ruck. I think he had 17 hit-outs to advantage, so there's nearly 100 points right there. And he has 20 disposals, kicking goals, laying tackles.
Roost one from outside 50.
Yeah,
exactly.
He's improved his kicking as well.
Yeah, and he stands up, in those close games when the points to really get boosted in SuperCoach. So he does absolutely everything. So we love Max. Little shout out to a guy who wasn't even I didn't even have him on the field on the weekend, but one of my favourite picks nearly for the year, Buku comes sitting on the bench for me in the forward line. I wasn't sure who to put in that last spot, and I thought, well, he's probably someone I could maybe trade out in a couple of weeks once the dust settles, but he's going really well. Scored 82 on the weekend, and he's going to make a heap of money. So really happy with Buku. Villains for the week, as you say, those low scores. You're able to hopefully, get them out of your total, but the defence rookie spot, I feel like I just keep coming back to that every week. Like we didn't have any injuries there this week, but then you've got like Blake House scoring 26. Toby Pink was even worse. He was in the negatives for most of the game on Good Friday. So when we are going to be relying on these guys for best 22 this week, we need them to stand up. So hopefully something goes right in the sort of the bottom end of our backlines this weekend.
Yeah, Howes has been all right as well. That was a real shock. He usually can get a few intercept marks, get a bit of the ball, but he was nowhere near it on Saturday night, was he?
So the main thing is we got to make sure these guys actually get picked. If one or two of them get dropped, it could be in all sorts.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait for teams.
Yeah.
Every time. Stats guy, heroes and villains, what do you got?
Bit of a weird one for my hero, but Harvey Gallagher, he got 89 for the Dogs. I picked him up a bit randomly just because he was really cheap at the last second. I think a lot of people didn't even think about him in pre-season, and he's been going okay for the Dogs. Then he produces an 89, so he was my hero because a few of my primos didn't go too well, so I was really surprised that he got 89. Was against West Coast, but he kicked a goal. He's got really good kick on him and really good tank along the wing, so I was pretty happy with him as my hero. And then the villain, I traded out Hayden Young, as we all did,
Yes.
so I almost forgot to talk about him, but Hayden Young getting 130. I was watching that game going, oh, you would get it the week after we all trade you out, mate. What are you doing to us? So, yeah, he's my villain this
Well,
week.
how about, like, you bring in a guy, like I traded Young to Luke Ryan, which I think probably a lot of people did. Guy in my first week of my team scores 130.
You're happy with that,
normally
yeah.
happy
Yeah.
days. That's like that actually cost me 2 points.
Yeah, yeah,
So-
because it was, yeah, exactly.
Crazy.
No good.
My hero, very clearly, I moved heaven and earth to get Isaac Heaney into my team, and I've never been happier.
Good move, yeah.
Yeah.
He was fantastic on the weekend again, and it's like, even though Sydney lost that game, like Heaney was just everywhere, and I'm like,
Perfect
this
result.
is great.
Tigers
It's good.
win. Heaney goes nuts.
Yeah, you're loving it.
Smiling all the way to the bank there, Al. Not bad. 148 for the Heen machine. Heen man. Love that. And then my villain. It was going to be Hayden Young, but Stats Guy stole that. So Jaden Short.
I feel like he's been your villain for 3 weeks.
Exactly.
Get him out of
Because
there.
this is the problem. I've gone, look, I don't want to pull the ripcord on both. You know, I'm like, I'll just try to split in the middle. I'll get rid of Hayden Young this week. I'll sit with Short. It's completely cooked it. Absolutely cooked it. So he's the villain right now. And now I'm just trying to figure out, like, when do I punt? And I'm like, it might have to be this week. I just don't know. It's very frustrating. Easily my villain. Speaking of villains, though, I think I'm the villain over Al this week because I beat him
Oh, man.
in this head-to-head matchup. So receipts week on week on week for the head-to-head matchups. Who's going to outscore this player X between the two? Al has now lost to Dan, Tim, and myself. So it's a tough one, but he isn't ranked in the top 1%. So,
Exactly.
And I believe this week it was 1 point the difference, Al.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've sort of backed in Christian Petrarca to outscore Zach Butters, and when I have Butters in my team, and when he just he had a very, very slow start, he managed to get it going a little bit, just scraped himself to a 98. I thought, I've got this one in the bag, and then I checked the scores, and Petrarca scores 97. So he must have seen that he was a point or two ahead of me, and just, the late clanger just to...
Well, he saw that I'd captained him, and then he went, wait a minute, I'll sort Jim out and get him to beat Al by a point.
Yeah,
So.
1 point.
All right, though, the news, injury, suspensions, obviously gather round kicks off on Thursday night. This is Tuesday afternoon when we tape this show. There's not a giant amount of stuff out there. We're still looking at maybe Stephen May being back next round. Al, what are we looking at?
Yeah, well, probably the main thing for people to know is, we're back to best 22 scoring this weekend. We've only got a couple of days before the first lockout because of Easter Monday, obviously. Not a heap of SuperCoach relevant players getting suspended or injured this week, thankfully, unless you've got Tom Lynch in your team or something like that. But probably, the guys to watch are maybe who might be coming back. So if Stephen May comes back this week, what does that mean for like a Blake Howes or a Marty Hoare at Melbourne, who a few people have? And then Sam Walsh now back in full training. Sean Darcy starting to crank up his comeback attempt over in Freo as well. So I'm just keeping a close eye on these guys because when we've got Luke Jackson going so well as a solo ruck, and someone I think a few of us traded in, Jack Carroll at the Blues, who's got a really nice role in the midfield. But once Walsh gets back in there, what's that going to mean for him? So just keeping a close eye on them, and hopefully at least another 1 or 2 weeks away.
I'm just still with the Sean Darcy thing. I'm like, just keep him on ice.
Everyone who has Luke Jackson's like, please.
He's a big dude. Just let him rest.
They're bringing in. When's the mid-season trades happening? They can just. So other teams need ruckman, don't they?
They really
just
do.
trade him. Oh,
Just trade him north. Come on.
I'll take him. Yeah, I'll take him anyway.
All right, stocks up, stocks down, though, after round 3. Who are we buying this week? Looking at what we're trying to sort of jump on board. Famously, I've now gone stocks down on Nick Martin and Hayden Young. So, again, 0 for 2 so far.
I think a lot of people would like that, yeah.
Breaking my heart. Stocks up, though, Al. Where are you going to start?
Well, the number one traded in player this week, which I think we probably saw coming, is Sam Darcy, and I think he'll be number one on the agenda when we dial into the Phantom. So I'm going to mention Tom Brown at the talking up the Tigers this week. I think he's a nice option in defence. Now, the backline rookies have just been absolutely a nightmare for us so far this year. So, what could go wrong trading in another one? But I think I might need one if I'm going to have a potentially zero on the field with all these issues I've got back there. And Brown has looked really nice in his 2 games this year, scoring in the 60s. With all the injuries at Richmond, I think he's guaranteed to stay in the team. They really like him. The only issue is that he played 1 game at the end of last year, which means he's not bottom priced. He's around the 150K mark. So I can't get him in a straight swap for like a Caulfield type, so I might have to do another move. Maybe that involves Darcy in the forward line. But I think in terms of defence, he could be a nice one to bring in this week.
I like that. I like that a lot, especially when you're just like looking at the litany of names in that defensive sort of like, cheapo spot of like between Reid,
hard, yeah.
Caulfield, Gibkiss. You're just like, mate, this is cooked. Like Brown, just save us, please. Save us, Tom Brown.
Stay healthy,
Your
man.
only hope. Stats guy, who are you looking at for stocks up?
I was sort of tossing and turning between this one, but Matt Rao I'm going to have a look at this week. Obviously, past his bye now. At the start of the season, I would have said all in, chips in on Tuke Miller because I thought he'd probably be one of their highest scorers. But at the moment, Rao's averaging 130. He looks to be their main clearance player, obviously their main contested ball winner, which is we love in SuperCoach. So, yeah, I think he can probably stay near that average. And he's I think he's 602,000 there. So he's already gone up a little bit in price, but not too much. And I think, he's a bit worth it. Definitely the number one Gold Coast player, I think,
What does the grass taste like in South Australia?
yeah. If the grass can give him some
I
powers
don't know,
up there.
man. Like maybe
Yeah,
it's just like the grass up north is like what he's into, and he comes down south and it all just goes a bit sour.
Oh, we'll have to wait and see, yeah.
My stock's up. Harry Mackay was thrown in there. We call him Harry McFive on the old AFL Today show. That is, like, we actually brought this up a little while ago, a couple of weeks ago on this show, talking about where the dominant sort of position players, Al, can be a real point of difference, a podsiadly as we call it, a good pod. Harry McFive is slotting everything. He's just not missing. He's clunking
11-2, I think he's kicked this year.
He's looking great. So the thing is, I just can't look. I've got a complicated history with Harry Mackay as a Carlton fan. I love him. I am just ropeable though, and the stock's up. Like the one thing that I'm looking to do in the back line is Vlosten. Like he looks so good this week.
Last couple of weeks,
at 100% like efficiency, that sort of stuff. Like amazing gear. And it feels like the short role that I was looking at short playing, Vlosten's playing.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it feels like I should be just going, right, cut my losses, try everything I can do to get Vlosten in because he's crushing at the moment, Al. What do you reckon?
He did have the big red beard as well, but he's shaved that off now, so thought that might turn you off. But I mean, Mackay went up 69,000 this week, so amazing if you jumped on.
Yeah.
It's just, question, is it too late? He's still 467, which is not a terrible price if you think he can maintain this kind of form. He can still make a heap more money. Who have they got? Carlton coming up. Freo have got some injuries. Adelaide's really battling. So he could keep on going with it if you have the guts. And then the other one in a similar boat is Tom Powell, went up a heap.
Yes.
We were all over him last week. But if you didn't get him, he's still a decent price. If you can think either of these guys could potentially even end up as forward line keepers. It's still very hard to know who the top end guys in the forward line are going to be. After you get past the Heaney, maybe Flanders, Luke Jackson, then it's really open. So there's no reason it couldn't be one of these guys. So maybe still not too late to jump on.
Another one is Jesse Hogan to throw in there, right? Like sort of out of sight, out of mind this week because they had the bye GWS, and it feels like he could also just keep on just snagging goals for fun. That's what he does. But I don't know. It's like a weird one.
It's risky. The big forwards is always risky, I think. I'm never one to take him, but if you want to take Carey or him, just even for the next 3 weeks to make a bit more cash, it's not a bad idea.
Just. Right, stocks down. Who are we selling? I've already mentioned. I'm just going to go Jaden Short. He's gone. Got to pack it up. I just can't do it. I'm going to try everything I can to go to Vlosten. Darcy Wilson, though, is sort of also a bit of a worry for, one of my cheapies.
Yeah.
And that's probably, like, we've talked about Sam Darcy briefly. We'll talk about him a bit more later. But it sort of feels like there's a couple of options in and around your forward line for someone like James Jordan, Darcy Wilson as well, to sort of just pull the pin, make a little bit of cash, move on from there. The Wilson sort of role, St Kilda just looked horrible this week. So do you sort of roll the dice yet? Talk about, dudes scoring 20s, the 25.
25, yeah.
And it was a Barry Crocker shocker. So I'm just sort of hoping that maybe I don't have to trade him out this week. But if I have to go to Darcy somehow, it might be him. I don't know. So he might be my stocks down. What about you, Al?
The issue with someone like him is he's only made about 30 grand. So you just hope that he can pull out a decent score and get that cash moving again. I think they've got the Tigers this week. So probably, who knows which Richmond's going to turn up, which Richmond players will be available. So, I might try and back him in. I like the fact that he's that mid-forward, so it'd be handy to keep him if I can. But it's an interesting question in that forward line because I think a lot of people do want to bring Sam Darcy in, and it's like who goes out for him. And there's a couple of rookies that have gone up a little bit but aren't doing heaps. And then you've got the bunch of guys that you referred to in that sort of 200K price range that I think at the start of the year we were red hot on all of them, and none of them have really fired the way we hoped. Like Jordan's been okay. I'll probably give him one more week, and then Sydney has a bye. Look to move him on. Fife just going. The one that I think people are really getting rid of if they've got him is Jack Billings. subbed out on the weekend, only scored in the 40s, I think.
And he got 130 or something.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago.
It's
It's the Jack Billings roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like, This is, we almost took this out, I think, in like the season preview show. We were like, it's a little bit of a risk. We don't know his role, and it's exactly what's happened.
Yeah,
right?
very consistent, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think his break-even's in the 60s this week, so he could actually start losing money unless he can have another good game. So he's my definite stocks down for the week.
Nice one. Stats guy?
Oh, I'm going to get rid of Blake Howes, I think. I know he actually had some decent scores at the start of the season, but he got 26. I didn't have a great score this week, and I'm just looking at him with that 26, and I don't like that at all. His break even is now up to 30, so obviously you like guys that are going to be in the minuses. There's still a lot of guys out there in the minuses. I'd maybe bring in a Tom Brown, make a bit of cash there. I think is a better option. So Blake Howes, he still has a decent ceiling because he can take those intercept marks, can get a bit of the ball. But with his break even now in the positives up to 30, I don't think he's going to make too much more cash, so I'm going to get rid of him.
Nice one. I do love a good rage trade. And that's
that was a bit of a rage trade. Yeah.
That's the Darcy Wilson thing for me as well. His break even's only 11. So he should be just make like if he just
make that easy.
If he makes another 25 next week, you don't have to completely bail out and just burn everything down to the ground. But you're not going to feel great. So hopefully you still top that. But to talk out some more rookie options and good gear like that, let's take a quick break and bring in the Phantom. All right, here he is, dialing in once more from parts unknown. That, I don't know, might also just involve us hanging out at Gather Round. I'm just saying. It is the Phantom. He's talking Bubble Boys and everything in between. What is going on, Phantom? How are you feeling after round 3?
Centre of the universe, South Australia this week. I'm looking forward to a big week of footy, a big week of SuperCoach. Not sure how I'm feeling in terms of what happened on the weekend. We saw some good rookie numbers, but is there enough on the horizon? That's the big question SuperCoach is asking.
That's right. Al, who are you looking at? Obviously, Sam Darcy is like leading the pack. Obviously, I think 8 of the top 10 trades so far have been just people bringing in Darcy for a litany of different names. What are you vibing on the big dog?
Well, I think after his first game, we all thought, well, this guy is a must-have. A little bit quieter on the weekend, and then the slight complication potentially is Rory Lobb playing really well in the VFL. Any concerns for you, Phantom, or you think Darcy just has to come in this week?
Well, I think that score has disillusioned SuperCoaches a bit too, because we can't expect 100 from him every week. That was a good score, 54 points on the weekend. Hopefully going forward, something in between. But I think he's done enough to come in. Rory Lobb, I think we all know what Rory Lobb can do. Luke Beveridge knows what Rory Lobb can do. So hoping he just goes down the path of finally giving Darcy a good run at it. He's injury-free, he's ready to go. Can play in multiple positions. He has chopped out a lot in the ruck. Tim English's centre bounce numbers are down a little bit given what Sam Darcy can do. So I think at the price, negative 92 break even, you just have to jump on. And I think there's enough there to take that risk of potentially Lobb coming in. But again, Roy Lobb's going to play good in the twos. So hoping that doesn't change Bevo's mind too much.
For the amount that he's getting paid, he should get.
I know,
he should be playing pretty well in the twos, I reckon.
Yeah.
Who are the other ones that you're looking at on the bubble this week, Phantom?
Interesting week, guys, on the bubble, because you look at the 2 and 3 break evens in the game. Harvey Thomas and Aaron Cadman from the Giants already had a price rise 2 weeks ago, back off the bye, both negative 51 and negative 52 break even, both under 200K. Probably still worth some thought, I think, because there's not a lot of 2-game options. We saw Jared Lyons go down last week. Charlie Dean's not there. Josh Draper, defender from over there at the Dockers, negative 32-point break even. But again, they are going well, the Dockers. He's fitting in quite nicely, but can we be sure of his long-term job security and, I guess, scoring potential too? I'm not sure. So maybe do we spend a bit more and jump on those trains that have already left the station?
Would you count Ollie Dempsey in that bracket? He was sensational on Easter Monday,
He's
gone
been
up
great,
about 60K already.
He was good. I think I said on this show last week he's not going to kick 3 goals every week. Turns out he doesn't need to kick 3 goals every week to score well. He was good on the MCG, but over 200K now. He's in that sort of next bracket. So 219K for him. He's probably a little bit too gone when you look at Aaron Cadman 191, Harvey Thomas 175. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when you're trying to make the other trade with the cash, then it is. So I reckon Ollie Dempsey's just gone.
What about Tiger Tom Brown there, Phantom? How are you feeling about him?
Well, 60 Supercoach points for him again. Ours man, ours our Tigers expert. I've liked what Tom Brown done. We saw him play late last year as well. Just can we trust his scoring? I'm not sure. A bit elevated. I'll throw to Our. Is Our going to pick? If Our's going to pick him, I'll consider it. If Our's going to leave him, I'll leave him.
No, it's definitely in my plans, but I think it's because we don't have a lot of options down there in the back line. You mentioned Draper at Freo, a bit of a key defender type, but his scoring hasn't been too bad. I think Brown is a great user of the ball. I think he was picked 17 in the draft a couple of years ago, so they want to invest some time into him. But yeah, he's not going to get up massive numbers every week, just 60s and 70s. So not going to make a heap of money, but it's really if you've got a hole there in the back line that you need to fill. Speaking of Tigers, what about McKelty Lafau? 102,000 in the forward line on the bubble. Hasn't been scoring much, but with everyone else going down around him, it could be McKelty's paddock down there for the Tigers for a few weeks.
Could be the focal point. He'll have to be. 2 goals on the weekend. His first goal at the level. 3 kicks, though, subbed out on 39. I think we'd probably have to wait and see if he can do some more in that paddock before jumping on. So I wouldn't be going this week.
Nice one. All right, well, how are you going to rank the top 3 on the bubble this week for us, Phantom? Before, I know that Stats Guy's got a big question for one of your, Crow favourites out there. So, but how are we going 1, 2, 3 if you're going to have to bring in somebody?
Tough one. Darcy, clear number 1. I think you can't go past there. I still don't mind. I'll give you 4. Tied on 2 and 3, you probably add Aaron Cadman and Buku Kama, who I know Al likes. Probably spoken about the Bulldogs intercept defender who probably will get forward defensive status in a couple of weeks. And then you probably have Josh Draper at number 4, given his price, given he's on the bubble. But I think this week, if you don't need the cash, but you want to bring some guys in who are going to make you cash, I still think those guys that have had that price rise, the Kamas and the Cadmans, still have money left in them.
Nice one. All right. Stats Guy, bring us home. Come on.
We know the Phantom loves a bit of South Australian footy. You got Billy Dowling. You can check out his highlights on all the SuperCoach AFL socials, which is really handy as well. 34 disposals, 7 tackles, 7 clearances in the twos, in the sample. What do you reckon about Billy Dowling? Chances for the Crows, Phantom?
Well, they need something in that midfield, just in general. Probably going to make some changes, I think, Matthew Nicks. And he is a chance, that big long-range goal to finish off, to win down there at Noarlunga on the weekend. All reports down there was he's strong. He was dynamic, and he's a great runner, Billy Dowling. He's always there in the right spot. He was a big junior Supercoach scorer over here at North Adelaide and for South Australia. So 123K mid-forward. Now, that'd be ideal if he can come in this week, be on the bubble in a couple of weeks. We need something in the forward line. 171 Supercoach points for him on the weekend from those 34 disposals. 2 score assists, 7 tackles as well. So bit of an all-round stats guy like you, stats guy. But
yeah, you can play a bit better footy than me, but that's all right.
Fingers crossed for Billy Dowling. He wouldn't jump on, of course, before he gets a game. But let's hope he does. Hopefully, Nick's make some changes and Billy get to go.
Yep. Nice one. And finally, who are you keeping an eye on this week? Speaking of which, people who have only just gotten a game. It's like the likes of Elijah Hollands, who absolutely, cracked the ton this week for my beloved Blues. And gear like that. Are you keeping an eye on any other names? Obviously, Henry Huswaite got out there for the Hawks too. Those guys who are sort of, out there, they've only played the one game. Obviously, Hollands' price is substantially different to everybody else. But the lack of Huswaite, are you keeping an eye on those dudes?
Yep, Toby Conway as well from the Cats, the young Geelong ruckman, scored in the 80s at the MCG on Easter Monday. A little bit more expensive. Again, he's played one game. Highly rated down there. Obviously had a lot of big guys to get past at Geelong for Conway to break in. So good to see him out there and compete. He's put a lot of weight since he was drafted as well. So fingers crossed he gets in. Might be a bit of an awkward trade given he's a ruck only, but could it come into play with Luke Jackson when Sean Darcy comes back? Something to jot down on your watch list. Elijah Holland's a bit expensive, but again, he's scored well at the level before. So if he can consistently hold his place, it might work out. If you've got a premium that's still not working, or your mid-pricer that hasn't made the money you need, maybe you sort of jump onto the next carriage. You're not making money in the trade, but the carriage next to you moves faster, which could be Elijah Hollands.
Nice one. Love it. There you go. Just some more words of wisdom from the Phantom. No doubt we'll hang out, just cause a bit of ruckus over there.
And visit the lair.
Go hang out
Visit
there. It's going to be great.
Can't wait. Are we allowed in there?
No, I don't think anyone's allowed in there. That's how it rolls. It's just it's the Charlie from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme,
Yes.
where it's just like you go in the Phantom's lair and it's just bits of paper and string.
Yeah.
Just like bubble boys everywhere. Just absolute chaos. But either way, can't wait for Gather Round. Are you excited, Phantom?
I am, as again, centre of the universe, South Australia. It's all happening, plenty of buzz around already. But obviously, when the big names get here, you two, all kicks off then.
Nice one. All right. Well, stick around. We'll get into Captain's Corner after this. Thanks once again to the Phantom. All right. Some classic, insightful stuff from the Phantom. I'll tell you what, when the bubble starts getting a bit thin on the ground, that's when you need to look at the Phantom really hard in the eyes, or at least the sort of bubbling little waveform, and go, give us the goods. Give us the goods. But before we keep on keeping on, Captain's call for Gather Round. How are we looking this week? Last week didn't work out quite as well as we might have hoped. I would have obviously, in retrospect, taken the Nick Dacos 114 odd that he got as my VC, because after I flim-flammed around and flip-flopped and ended up with Trark instead of Gornicus, breaking my heart. This week, I am looking at probably Gorn for the vice-captain, and then looking at probably Tom Green. How do you feel about this, Al? What do you reckon?
Well, the first thing is, it just look like 9 games. That's a lot, isn't it? It seems
is,
like
yeah.
we've been sort of dealing with these shorter rounds. And the other thing to factor in is that depending on, I guess, because we don't have the bye players missing, do you have a loophole on the bench? And for me, it's Cohen Livingston from the Eagles. So that means I have to, if I want to do the old loop, I have to pick someone from one of those early games. So probably Gorn on the Thursday night is a pretty good shout. But the one I'm kicking myself from the weekend, I had Bontempelli as captain. And as you said, I mean, it just shows how valuable his touches are. And it's sort of a bit of a tick for, I think, for the SuperCoach scoring system, that the influence that he had with his 16 possessions still got him to 110 points. But it was a bit of a frustrating watch. But I had Isaac Heaney sitting right there and could have put the C on him. So I don't think I'll make the same mistake this week. He plays the Eagles on Saturday afternoon. It is at Adelaide Hill, so I'm not sure what his record is like there. But you'd think he's going to have an absolutely massive game.
Well, I mean, this is the thing with Gorn. I think he ripped off 124 last time he played at Adelaide Oval. And he's projected for 127. The thing is, Petrarca, you might remember a couple of years ago, had a lazy 189 against the Crows at Adelaide Oval.
This is the big Clayton Oliver annual game. He's done a couple of 200s over there. But I'm not sure if he's quite in that space at the moment, but
I
It's
like
not
that.
far off though.
be a handy pod if you had him.
Tom Green as well, though, stats guy, for me.
Okay.
Just throwing that one out there. 147 against the Suns at NG Stadium last year. 161 is his projected.
Yes.
That's a bit silly. I like that. I'll take it. He's 129 top scorer at Adelaide Oval, though. I just want to keep riding the Tom Green train. So I feel like that's where I'm going to land. Like the Heen machine, obviously fantastic call against the Eagles, but I don't know. It feels like there might be a bit of a cap on some of those midfielders sometimes against the Eagles team as they just go, right, put the cue in the rack, off we go. But who are you looking at, Stats Guy?
I'm going to go Gorn as well for vice captain. I think you've got Riley O'Brien, Rob. He's a decent ruckman, but he'll match Gorney a lot of the time in the actual ruck. But around the grounds, I think Gorn could get up to 25 touches in this game because he's a lot slower, Rob, than Gorney. So, and Gorn as well, he's been, I said this before, the last couple of years he's improved his kicking. I'd back him for a goal in this one and around 20 to 25. So I've really got to put him. I'm really confident on the vice captain on him. Then I'm going to go captain on Bont. I don't see Bevo putting him in the forward line again because obviously the Eagles are the bottom team at the moment, whereas you got Geelong absolutely flying. The other thing about Geelong is Hawks were decent in the midfield against them yesterday. So I don't think Geelong's midfield is that good. So I'm going to say Bont as my captain just because I think he could go big. He'll bounce back over probably 120, 130 and get a better score.
Stats Guy throwing Geelong under the bus.
Oh, well, everyone knows that they don't have much midfield depth at the moment.
Sure.
I think
You're
you've talked about
saying
that.
it, Stats Guy.
Well, it's true, yeah.
No, to be honest, I can't argue with you. It's like it feels like every game that they get into, it does sort of just like a lot of ping-ponging back and forth, right? So there's touches galore.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one when you're playing gather round though, and you're like, well, there's only two teams with home field advantage, so
Yeah,
it's a bit trickier. Right, quick fire round. What do we reckon, Al? How quick can we do the quick fire round this week?
Yeah, no, that's just bang, bang,
go.
bang.
Gerald could just fast forward it or something.
Play at 1.25 speed.
yeah.
Who goes first? Who's out of your team first? James Jordan, Nat Fyfe, Jack Billings, Zach Reid.
Zach Reid, I think it's Harley Reid we're talking
Harley
about
Reid.
there.
Yeah, I was going to say Zach Reid's already gone.
These
He's
sort of
cooked it.
200k
Harley Reid, he's sitting
forwards.
there right there as your weird mid forward.
Yeah, I think Billings clearly number one to go out. I think Jordan you could probably trade this week, but maybe wait one more. The Swans have the bye in round 5, so that's the perfect time to trade him. Yeah, Fyfe. I mean, I think the role is there. I'm just waiting for him to put up 100. Hasn't quite happened since round one at least. And Harley Reid is just going to be a real slow burn. It's just really hard in that West Coast, anywhere in the West Coast team and in the midfield. They're getting just absolutely pumped every week. And like you say, they're playing opponents who can afford to mess around with. We'll just sub Libber out three-quarter
That's
time.
crazy, wasn't
we'll
it?
just put Bont down in the goal square and see how that looks. It must be really tough coming into that team. But, he does a few nice things every week that you think this guy is going to be a player. But, sort of 50s and 60s is just going to crawl up in price.
Yep.
That is a tough one, the Harley Reid action, just because, I think he's gone down. His scores have gone down each week so far as well. You're like, adjusting. Tough. But anyway.
Interesting question whether you would potentially put him on the bench this week.
Depends
who you have to bring on.
I think he's on in my team just because I've got a pretty bad forward line. But, I don't mind that because his ceiling at the moment isn't too high, but that's just because the Eagles don't get enough of the ball, as you said. So,
Righto, we're going to pull the pin. Yeah, nah. James Jordan.
One more week, but you could trade him this week, I think.
Stats guy?
Nah, I agree with Al on that one.
Darcy Wilson.
I'm keeping him.
Stats guy?
Yeah, trade him out.
Nat 5.
Keep, I think. But it depends. If I need that money to get maybe Flanders or someone, I could jettison him.
Stats guy?
I don't mind upgrading to some of the ones that have already had the buy. So I'll say
How about Zach Fisher?
Pull the pin. Yeah. I'm sick of him as a North fan as well. that's another thing.
As a Carlton fan, I love it because it's like sucked in.
Oh my
There
God,
you go.
he looks like a deer in headlights.
Nice one. Which was the biggest mistake this week? Al trading out Hayden Young or Nick Martin? Couldn't be me who did both.
Same.
One of our colleagues here, Dan Batten, who's appeared on this show, actually he traded in Luke Ryan and Harry Mackay, or his two trade-ins, scored about 270 points, and he actually lost on the deal because he traded both those guys out as well, which is insane, really, when you think about it. I think probably Martin's the one who, 44 touches is mental for 136 points. Is he going to do that every single week? So, fantastic if you kept him, but I don't think he's going to hurt you as much long term. Whereas Young, probably we could have just kept him and he'll end up being one of the top defenders.
Yeah. That's one of those weird, annoying things as well with Hayden Young, I think, where you look at it and go, I could have just left it and it would have been fine.
We'll find out in a couple of weeks, though.
You take the price hit, you just move on with your life, whatever. That's what I'm trying to do with Jaden Short, and it's not going to work. Watch him go off as soon as I trade him out. Rank the guns off the bye. We've got some pretty big names here. Tom Green, Took Miller, Sam Flanders, Lockie Whitfield. Al, take us through it. How are you ranking those four?
We all love Green, but I think I'd nearly have Lockie Whitfield on top this week as a trade-in just because his price is still really good. I think he's around the 530K mark. Scoring really well in defence, he'd be a really nice pod. But if you're looking to make a bit of an upgrade in the back line, and I think everybody would love to be able to bolster our defence if we could, he'd be a great pod to trade in this week. And then, the others, take your pick. Probably Miller is the best value. But, Flanders I want to get in my forward line in the next week or two because I think, he's clearly going to be in the top 2 or 3 by the end of the season.
Yeah, Dimmer talked him up in the preseason, and I was like, do we need to trust him? I've got him in my team, so I'm very happy with what he's doing so far.
Stupid, sexy Flanders. I love it. Look, the Whitfield thing as well is one of those ones where I looked at it probably just before the bye last week.
Yeah, we talked about him.
I'm like, all right, can you trust Lockie Whitfield? It's about as far as I could throw him, which as a grown man is not very far. So I don't know how I feel about that, but I don't know. I'd probably rank it. Look, you got to have Green in your team, I think, right?
Yeah.
You just got to have, before it just gets impossible to get him in. So, the Took Miller stuff. I love this setup that they've got up in the Suns, right? Between Miller and just all these names.
Anderson,
dude,
Rao,
I love Anderson. He's obviously in my team. Rao, we've talked about already. They've just got an array of guns. You're now you've got a coach who can use you guys. Look at this. This is SuperCoach gold. I love it.
It is.
Anyway, right, name game. It's a game of names. I'll throw out a couple of names. Who are we taking head-to-head? Al, you're 0-3.
Yeah.
This week, I've got Riley Sanders on my team. I do not have Colby McKercher. You have Colby McKercher. I'm going to start Riley Sanders on my field this week.
Fair enough.
Are you going to start McKercher over Sanders?
Well, I have the choice, because I think a lot of people might be in this situation where now we go back to best 22 with everybody available. So Tom Green comes off the bench, and you might have Matty Roberts, McKercher, and Sanders, and have to bench one of them. And I don't think it can be Roberts because he scored in the 90s the last couple of weeks. The Swans have West Coast, so you've got to play him, and that means you've got to pick one of McKercher or Sanders, and they've both been great. I think they're both going to make us a heap of money, but real toss of the coin job, and I'll probably get it wrong again as I have the last 3 weeks, but I'm starting Colby McKercher. Brisbane at Norwood Oval on Friday night for the Roos this week. really hard to know what the Lions are going to do, but you'd think there'd be a fair bit of ball in the Kangaroos back line. And yeah, Sanders coming up against Geelong, although as we mentioned, their midfield not the strongest, but a bit of a tougher matchup there for him. So I'll just back in Colby to get the job done.
Nice one. I'll be there at the game. Just full-blown Sanders. Just get the ball, Riley. What are you doing? Get it. Just screaming. So, there's James from SuperCoach. In my SuperCoach shirt, just losing my mind. Just cheering him on just to get me over the hump. Then finally, before we do anything else, the last one, the way we finish off every week is the Tuesday trade. But before we do the Tuesday trade, it's round 4. Are we boosting or not boosting this week? Stats guy.
Oh, I'm a big fan of the boost. I've only actually done one compared to, I know a few of you guys have done 2 and things like that. But as we mentioned last week, Al said it as well. If you need to fix your team, this is a good time. You got a few guys that are coming off a bye so that you can get them in. That's why I don't mind picking up some GWS players or some Gold Coast players. So go all out on a boost. Why not?
Love it. Al?
I'll try and avoid using my third boost this week. I've already used 2.
Fair enough.
I mean, my team's, don't want to get the big head thing. We've talked about this.
No, you can say what you want.
I don't have to trade necessarily this week. But I think the issue is I'm going to want to trade next week. I think I've sort of had that lined up for a while that when the Swans bye comes around, I've got a lot of Swans, probably need to get rid of at least one, and Jordan seems the obvious one.
Yep.
So it's a question of, next week I'd be happy to wait and say next week trade Fife and Jordan in for, a rookie and hopefully Sam Flanders, but I'm not sure what rookies there'll be around next week, so maybe this is a week to do it. And do I just say, well, Fife, you've done enough, turn him into Sam Darcy and have the cash sitting there, and next week go and use it. But I mean, Tom Brown's the other one in the back line that I'm quite keen on as well. So maybe something like a Fife to Darcy and then upgrade one of my injured defenders in the back line and hopefully leave enough cash next week to do something with Jordan.
Nice one. Stats guy, have you got a Tuesday trade for us?
Oh, as I mentioned, Rao, I'm trying to bring him in. I just really think he can keep going really big. So I'm going to probably trade out Howes and then possibly Jordan. I'm tempted to trade him out this week, but then he might get another week. But I don't see him getting a massive score, so I'm not going to regret it too much. So I think, Howes and Jordan, and then I'm going to try and get that up to Matty Rao in the midfield, and then possibly Tom Brown as well, because I think he's going to make a bit of cash, like Al said.
Nice one. Al, have you got a Tuesday trade?
Yeah, well, I think that'll be, if I was going to lock in the trade today, I think it would probably be Fife out for Sam Darcy in the forward line and maybe a Caulfield out for Brown in the back line, just the 2 trades, and then leave a bit of cash for next week.
Nice one. Mine is trying to figure out, look, I've actually got 50 grand in the bank still from last week's moves. And I'm like, all right, sideways trades, I hate them. You don't do sideways trades. But if Jaden Short has made you this angry that you're like, get out of a team. You're done. Nick Vlaston comes in. I can easily just also pull the trigger, and like the James Jordan thing doesn't bother me too much. Like I just worry that his role will lessen and lessen and lessen as obviously the year goes on. So that gives me plenty of cash. Jordan and Short to Darcy and Vlaston and bank a heap of cash for another upgrade next week, I think.
Fair enough.
I'm on the same boat as you, I think, Al, with the Sydney players where I'm like, I just got to keep an eye on that for the buys too. And it's like, so, but that's how I roll. Like the Vlaston or Whitfield question is going to be one that I'm going to be asking probably until we bounce the ball on Thursday night. Because you can see where Whitfield's upside is, like all those midfield touches, the way that GWS is smashing teams. The same thing goes for Vlaston, right? He's playing an incredible role for a team that is going to see plenty of the ball in their backfield. They're dealing with heaps of injuries. So it's a really, really tricky one.
Yeah, Vlaston's been like a fantastic player for Richmond for a long time, and he's just never quite been in that elite bracket in Supercoach. I mean, is this the year? We've got 3 or 4 games of evidence to say it might be, but it's always tricky to know, will he be able to maintain it for the whole season?
Yeah, with his price point, I don't know if you can just go there yet, but he's a nice pod to have.
Nice one. Thank you, Stats guy. All right, and there you go. That's it for the round 4 Gather Round preview. And of course, you can check out all of the Gather Round content that'll be floating around across all of the social gear on SuperCoach, Twitter, YouTube, IG, TikTok, all the other stuff. There's plenty of it. We float around Gather Round, just, sticking our big mugs in front of people's faces and asking them Supercoach questions.
Why not?
If you're listening in Adelaide, keep an eye out for these guys.
Yeah.
You'll see some ginger moron with a giant beard just in a Supercoach T-shirt to say g'day and go, right, Harley Reid all the way or something like that and go nuts.
Yep.
Of course, make sure you're all over Phantom's Lair as well, which is now in this feed as well, I believe.
I believe it is.
Cool. And you can make sure that you rate the show on Spotify and all the other podcast apps that you use. Whatever your favourite one is, just make sure you've rated it, reviewed it, said g'day, throw in some questions, Hal will see it, and away we go.
Perfect.
Sign up to SuperCoach Plus for all the insights you need as well. Smash code SPORTS. Get in your tips with tips.com.au. And for all the latest news and fun gear, you can also check out the AFL Today show, where you can hear Stats Guy. plenty of times, and me as well. The lesser light of that show. Anything else you want to plug there, Al?
I think you've covered it off pretty well.
Nice one. All right. Well, thank you to Al Paton once more. He's top 1%. I don't know if you heard that.
Yeah, but make sure we mention that again.
Yeah.
He's getting T-shirts made. What are you talking about?
fair
He's like
enough.
top 1%.
Fair enough.
And Stats Guy, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I've been Jaymz Clements. Happy super coaching. Come say g'day. Gather around because it's going to be plenty of fun.